This episode is brought to you by Financial Times. When it comes to voicing or acting on our opinions, why are some people more confident than others? With the Financial Times, you form your own opinions with conviction based on unbiased and trusted reporting. FT journalists tackle global issues with an impartial and rigorous mindset, providing the facts and analysis that you need to make up your own mind. Make up your own mind with Financial Times. Visit ft.com/thejournal to read free articles and subscribe.
Imagine the softest sheets you've ever felt. Now imagine them getting even softer over time. That's what you'll feel with Boll & Branch's best-selling signature sheets in 100% organic cotton. In a recent customer survey, 96% replied that Boll & Branch sheets get softer with every wash. Start getting your best night's sleep in sheets that get softer and softer for years to come. Try their sheets with a 30-night guarantee, plus for a limited time, get 20% off your first order. At bollandbranch.com, code SPAN. Exclusions apply. See site for details.
Atheists, agnostics, long-haired weirdos, short-haired weirdos, vandals, hooligans.
The government, hug the government, love the government, hug the government, love the government, hug the government.
Welcome to The Politics Guys, a place for bipartisan, rational, and civil debate on American politics and policy. I'm Northern Kentucky University political scientist Michael Baranowski. I'm joined today by my conservative counterpart, attorney and former deputy assistant to President Trump, May Mailman.
Hey, Mike.
Hey, May. So we didn't get to the last part of our election predictions, and so I thought we would kick off this midweek show with that. I sort of not just hinted, I kind of made it, I think, reasonably clear what I thought would happen, and we thought we could start with the Senate. Again, I've been pessimistic about the Senate for a long time, and I think rightly so. Democrats are defending a lot more seats, and we knew we were going to lose West Virginia for sure. We were pretty sure we were going to lose Montana, and that looks to be the case. And so I think the best case scenario for my party was being down 51-49. What's kind of surprised me a little bit is that Sherrod Brown's been doing pretty well in clearly Trump-supporting Ohio. He's a little bit up over Bernie Moreno. And, Tammy Baldwin, I think, is maybe going to hold on against that Eric Hovde, the hedge fund millionaire, centimillionaire, whatever, rich guy who's really kind of closed the gap. But it seems to me that Democrats have a pretty good shot at least minimizing the damage. And so my prediction for the Senate is 51-49, your side when the dust is cleared. What do you think about that?
I don't know. I've been so optimistic about the Senate that I tend to agree, but I did not think that Bernie Moreno would spend no money for so long. I moved from Ohio, and when I was there, now ages ago, Sherrod Brown was doing advertisements really early, right? Spending all of his money really early. And now Bernie Moreno has a lot of money to spend and is really flooding the zone. I'm not there. I hear a lot of it has to do with transgender sports. But I think that there's a sense that Bernie Moreno wasn't doing enough for too long, that it's too late. So I'll be interested there. But I think Trump ultimately hasn't crossed the finish line. If you get that many people coming out and voting for Trump, certainly Bernie Moreno has to win. But I don't know. Electability was the whole thing against him. So I don't know. I now live in Texas. Texas should not be a close race because it's Texas. But I have heard from people that Colin Allred, who's challenging Ted Cruz, he is a member of Congress, that he's a pretty good candidate and he's doing pretty well. So these sorts of things, I just end up not, I don't have a good sense. But I do think that Republicans take Montana. It's just too red. And there's just not a lot of Kamala Harris voters in Montana. And there's just not enough people who are willing to get out there for Hester. I think that goes our way. And, Dave McCormick is running okay in Pennsylvania, but probably ultimately not good enough. Same thing in Nevada. I think Nevada is a true toss-up, but I think I still put that in the Dem category. It's a tough map for the Dems, but I think ultimately I'd probably agree with you. Slight majority for the Republicans.
Yeah, 51 or 52 maybe, probably. I think outside maybe Republicans, if they have a really good day, they get up to 53, and that would be a pretty bad showing for my team. But yeah, so narrow control. I think when we turn from there to the House, I'm going to guess, and honestly, this is just kind of an educated guess, the Democrats end up with a real razor-thin margin because there were so many variables at play and not nearly enough good district-level polling for this to be more than an educated guess. And so, because this is supposed to be a fearless prediction, I'll be fearless, and I'll say, even though we're not going to know probably for weeks after Election Day, I'm going to say Democrats end up with a 220, 215 margin. And that's just, again, in part based on the fact that it seems like they have a better ground game. They're doing better in the money race in these 24 or so closely contested races. And also you have a lot more Trump Republicans who are defending districts that Biden won than Democrats defending districts that Trump won in 2020. And so I think that probably means a small Democratic advantage. But again, I would not be surprised if it didn't go that way. What do you think?
So I'm not even going to give an educated guess because there's just too many races to track. And I think that you need to be like a campaign consultant to really know the candidates and the districts. So all I will say is that real clear things that Republicans will end up with they have 32 toss-ups, but it seems more positive for Republicans slightly. But Kalshi, the betting market, has Democrats with better odds, 52%. So I think toss-up category, but I guess I've heard that Republicans are running with better candidates than we were 2 years ago, where there was a lot of criticism about having sort of crazier candidates. So that has given me some hope, but I just don't know enough about all of these candidates and all these races to opine beyond that.
Yeah. And I guess partly too, this might partly be me a little bit thinking, well, since I'm positive or as close to positive as you get that Republicans are going to win the Senate, and my gut tells me that Donald Trump's going to win the election, even though my prediction was Harris. Maybe that's the triumph of my hope over my fear. I don't know. But if the Democrats can't win the House, then all of a sudden you have a Republican trifecta, which, you had at the beginning of the first Trump term. But this is going to be very different because now Donald Trump can hit the ground running in this instance. And now I know that the Senate, that Republicans have said in the Senate that they will not end the filibuster, even though Donald Trump has called on an end for the filibuster, as has Kamala Harris. But there certainly would be a lot of pressure on Republican senators to do that. And if they did cave to that pressure, and if they did have a good day, say ended up with 53, Republicans, they could afford to lose a couple. And so you lose maybe a Mitch McConnell and someone else, I don't know, a Collins or someone like that. Well, still, the stuff that could happen then, I don't even want to think about it. But I think that's probably an unlikely outcome. I don't know. What do you think?
Imagine the softest sheets you've ever felt. Now imagine them getting even softer over time. That's what you'll feel with Boll & Branch's best-selling signature sheets in 100% organic cotton. In a recent customer survey, 96% replied that Boll & Branch sheets get softer with every wash. Start getting your best night's sleep in sheets that get softer and softer for years to come. Try their sheets with a 30-night guarantee, plus for a limited time, get 20% off your first order at bollandbranch.com, code SPAN. Exclusions apply. See site for details.
Reporting live from under my blanket, I'm Susan Curtis with Dunkin' at Home. Breaking news, pumpkin spice iced and hot coffees are back. I'll pass it to Mr. Curtis with his blanket for the full story.
That is so right, Susan. It's never too early to get in a spicy mood. I'm talking cinnamony goodness that's so tasty, people don't want to leave their blankets either. Back to you.
No, back to you.
All you.
The home with Dunkin' Pumpkin Spice is where you want to be.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I guess it matters more who we're electing than the balance right and left, sort of. If the Senate is going to be, if President Trump wins the White House and the Senate and is able to get nominees through, his cabinet through, then the House, in order to have to accomplish anything, if it's going to be Democrat, needs to be, I guess, reasonable people. So that makes me even want to opine less about what's going to happen, because I do not know these candidates. I don't know whether it seems like maybe during the primary process, some of these more Cori Bush types have lost their primaries. And so even though the Democrats might win, maybe some of the legislation that will come out will end up being pretty centrist legislation. I don't know. So we'll see. But for me, because I care about judges, because I care about the administrative state, because I've seen so little legislation, bipartisan or even, single party legislation come out that's like meaningful or helpful, I end up just caring less about the House and caring more about who the Senate is approving for these really serious cabinet level and, undersecretary, assistant secretary level positions that end up running the entire policy for the country, because the House and Congress have made itself irrelevant. So I guess part of the reason I just don't care about the House, like what has come out of the House? I don't know, nothing. So I guess I just focus on the Senate.
Yeah, well, a lot came out of the House in Biden's first 2 years, and a fair amount came out in Trump's first 2 years. But again, that's a unified control scenario that almost always ends after that first 2 years if you get in the first place. And so I would argue that the downside for this election for Democrats is considerably greater than it is for Republicans, simply because of the Senate, because we know with 99% certainty that there is not going to be unified Democratic control, but there could be unified Republican control. And even if there isn't, we know that a Republican Senate is going to constrain a President Harris, and certainly in a ways that a Republican Senate would not constrain a President Trump. Right?
Yeah. And even, I think for Democrats that the House, becomes much more important. But even still, you said a lot of things came out during the first 2 years with Trump because of trifecta control. No, like we passed the Tax Cut and Jobs Act, which, brings the corporate tax rates somewhat in line with the Western world and expires, like that was good, but it wasn't a criminal justice reform. That was good, but it wasn't massive changes to our immigration system or anything like that. Same thing with Biden. He showered states in cash under the American Rescue Plan Act, showered alternative energy in cash with the Inflation Reduction Act, but didn't actually change the country. The things that are shaping, I think, changing the country are often now too often done in the administrative state. And that has purely to do with the Senate and whether they're going to approve people like Mayorkas or Garland or whatever that end up having a lot of day-to-day control.
Right. And clearly, Kamala Harris will have a much harder time getting people that she wants, the sort of folks in those positions, than Donald Trump would have getting the sort of folks that he wants in those positions, given what we know to be almost certain about the Republican control of the Senate. We hope you enjoyed this preview of our supporters exclusive midweek show. If you'd like to hear the rest of the episode, we hope you'll consider becoming a supporter. Supporters get ad-free access to all of our shows, membership in our Politics Guys Discord group where you can join in on the conversation, and other benefits at different levels of support. To become a supporter, go to patreon.com/politicsguys. You can also support us through Venmo, we're @politicsguys, or through PayPal. You'll find all of our support links in the show notes as well as at politicsguys.com/support. And if you'd like to get the midweek show, but you're not in a position to become a financial supporter, that's not a problem. Just send me an email at mike@politicsguys.com, and I'll be happy to get that set up for you.
This podcast is part of the Democracy Group,